Nice.
And I showed them my haul, and I said, "All right, lay it on me. How much are you gonna make fun of me this year for it?" And my mom looked at me and said, "There's not enough to make fun of this year."
Damn.
You know your mom is like a legend in the eyes of some of my buddies who like pop into the podcast every now and then.
Hmm. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Anime Club After Dark, the podcast that delves into all things anime, manga, and otaku culture related. I'm your host, Alex, but you can call me Senpai. And joining me tonight, we have our poser extraordinaire, Natai.
Oh, never take me out, take me away forever.
And we have a man who is going to always be
Vibing.
jealous of Thorfinn's emotional growth. It is Chinoda.
I am an emotionally stunted man-child. I can never compare.
For Vinland!
There was something else that was growing over there, Chinoda.
And it wasn't the shield hero. I mean, what?
It was rising though.
Oh, there was something rising.
Oh no.
But yes, the three of us have gotten
Wasn't
together
Raftalia's
because... Shut up! Shut up! Yeah, the three of us have gotten together tonight because it is time for us to talk about something that I think we were all looking forward to for several months after it was announced, the second season of Vinland Saga.
Woo.
Yeah, woo!
Vikings go brrr.
So I do want us to talk a little bit about some non-spoilery stuff before we get into the meat and potatoes of this spoiler cast. So I do want to say before we do get started, however, if this is your first time here, do consider giving us a little subscribe there. We're trying to get to at least 1,000 subscribers sometime by the end of the year. If you like what you see, if you have anything to say about what we talk about tonight, let us know down below in the comments, and don't forget to share it around.
Also, why are you here on the season 2 spoiler cast if it's your first time? I mean, welcome, but it's
It
odd
could be
choice.
they could have watched the first season but never have watched our podcast.
Wild.
But did
I
you know there was an ACAD podcast for season 1?
Did
You
you
should
know
go
you're
check it
absolutely
out.
fucking wrong about that, Natai?
Wait,
There was not for the whole season, but an episode breakdown.
Yes, we
You
did
guys
episode
did.
by episode reviews.
So it's podcast for season 1.
That it's kind of like a spoiler cast, a really long spoiler cast for season 1, but yes. That whole concept of episode reviews didn't last very long on this podcast.
Rough.
I know it was rough keeping up with it that close to the air date. But anyway, let's get into some of the more technical aspects of the second season. First season of Vinland Saga was produced, of course, by Studio Wit. They did a fantastic job with it. However, for the second season, it was taken over by Mappa because apparently they're just going to end up making every single anime known to man. But I want to ask the two of you: are we all agreed that Mappa took the ball with this and ran right into the end zone with it?
Oh, for sure.
bro,
They-
they ran to the end zone, full free field, and then they spiked the shit out of that motherfucker.
I couldn't agree more. Mappa did a fantastic job with this second season. You know what? Had I not known, I could have believed that Wit did the second season.
You can tell it's different. I think not that Wit's production was like flawless and there weren't any like strange spots every now and then, but here you can tell like it's
CG water.
a bit different. That too, but also like in this season, like my main gripe is that it feels like every now and then will stumble across a shot that looks kind of wonky, but it's not bad by any means. It looks good. And I think as a whole, like season 2 is a really fucking solid production. But what's like the cool thing, I think what kept this adaptation going is the fact that it's most of the main players in terms of the production coming over from season 1 to season 2. Because don't know if you guys remember, there was a time when it was announced that Studio Kafka was doing season 2, but then it was moved to Mappa, and now we're here with Mappa. But same director, and I'm sure we'll go over all the main
Yeah,
players,
it
by the way.
was directed by Shuhei Yabuda, who also directed the first season of Vinland Saga at Studio Wit. It was also the screenplay was done by Hiroshi Seko, who also wrote the first season, first season screenplays for Vinland Saga. Also worked on Attack on Titan, Seraph of the End, Mob Psycho 100, Banana Fish, Summertime Rendering, Chainsaw Man, and is currently doing the screenplay for Zom 100.
What a list,
This
honestly.
dude is like a very
Nice track
prolific
record.
screenwriter, has a great track record.
Fucking solid.
Also, I didn't know this until you put this in our show notes, Doc, and we actually just watched them together here a few minutes before we started the Spoilercast. Mappa, the Chads that they are, released 2 shorts during the run of this season on their YouTube channel, completely free of charge. It's episodes 6.5 and 18.5, which usually those numbers are reserved for things like
OVAs.
well, what the fuck is the word I'm looking for? Like clip shows.
Clip shows.
Like clip episodes where they
Like a
they bring
recap.
you recap thank
episodes,
you.
yeah.
Recap is the word I was thinking of. I know English. Thank you, Natai. Someone who English is not his native language.
I speak the language.
You speak the language of the
Speak
dumb.
it. I speak the language.
But if for those of you who haven't seen it, because I personally don't think it was very well advertised, definitely go watch it. Just search for like Vinland Saga 6.5 and 18.5. Don't search 16.5 because we all know what that will bring up.
Yeah, they just they put these like supplementary short episodes on their YouTube channel for free, which is really fucking cool. I
And
guess
they are
like,
very short. They're both less than 3 minutes.
say what you will about, doesn't matter what your opinion is on the show, if you like it or hate it, you can't deny how much they give a shit about this fucking adaptation, right?
Yeah.
And it
No, they
shows
care.
with them. Yeah, they care. They put these videos up on the YouTube, and like you can tell they really gave a shit when making this series back in season 1, obviously, and now in season 2, so many years later. It's a labor of love, and it's fucking awesome.
Yeah. Those shorts are definitely a quick watch, and even if you know nothing about Vinland Saga, you can definitely watch the first one because it has no dialogue in it whatsoever, and get a feel for what you're getting yourself
What's
into.
it's about. Yeah.
And also
It's
just the quality of
awesome.
the animation, because I would say the quality of animation in those shorts is very indicative of what you see in the second season.
It's interesting to like go back and like it's kind of a strange, like it's not necessarily a fair comparison because the nature of season 2 and season 1, they're very different in what they're going
Which
for.
I definitely want to talk
Like,
about.
yeah, and we will get into it. Like if we're talking about from a technical standpoint, the amount of there's a lot of really impressive animation work in season 1. Pretty like it also helped that there were a lot of really massive set pieces and like cool action scenes that happened. And in season 2, you don't get a whole lot of that, but you get like a consistently like well animated and well put together show. Because I think the directing is like awesome, like really fucking crisp throughout the show. It just in terms of the animation, every now and then it is a bit wonky, but not bad by any means. It's
But you
still
can
great.
say that about the first season.
Yeah, I think the first season had way more moments of holy fucking shit.
Yeah.
In terms of the animation.
So it
Especially
was
that
much
Thorfinn
easier
and
to
Thorkel
ignore
fight
the-
scene.
Yeah. So it was much easier to ignore the wonky shots of season 1 compared to season 2, which was
Yeah.
a lot slower, but a lot more smooth.
And still, there's awesome moments of pieces of animations, whether it's we'll get to episode 8 with the climb scene or like some of the action that happens way later in the season, but still awesome production all around.
Can we talk a little bit about the music though?
I was about to say
my
I want to
God.
gush about the music.
So it is the music in the second season was composed by Yutaka Yamada, who also did the music for season 1. Has also worked composing music for Tokyo Ghoul and Great Pretender. Say what you will about Tokyo Ghoul, it does have some really good music in it, and Great Pretender has amazing music throughout.
This soundtrack, dude. Holy Holy
Man,
shit.
this dude knows what he's doing. So we're definitely, I think, all in agreement. We're nominating this OST for best soundtrack for our award show, right?
Big thumbs up for that. Yeah.
One thing I absolutely love about this soundtrack is it's very heavy reliant on brass instruments. Like you got that dum dum. They had the ACAD theme that kind of like subtly rears its head a couple of times throughout the second season. I love that heavy bass, that heavy brass that they use.
It's it's also that, but I think the standout moments for me is when the show and the soundtrack really enhances the more quiet and sort of fragile, almost gentle moments of the show. Because then you add like the holy shit, I can gush about the piano pieces in the soundtrack all fucking day.
My dude,
like,
in the
there's so
final
many-
episode when fucking Thorfinn is looking at the aurora off in the distance and that piano piece starts playing. Oh
Yeah.
my god!
there's so many moments where it's like the show just like slows way down and just pulls up the emotional knob all the way up, and like the characters like expressing their feelings and emotions, and then like the piano pieces will come in, and it feels like such a fragile like presence in the show, but in a very good and tender way. It's like it just brings
Which
out
really-
the emotion.
They
it sits so
properly
perfectly.
know how to use pacing with their music, and
Yes.
my god.
And it complements what Thorfinn is going through in his character development.
Yeah, it's like
I can't praise
so
this
fucking
soundtrack enough. It's so fucking good. I mean, the season 1 soundtrack was great too, but this one is just oof.
They took it to the next level. They really did.
Now-
most of
Oh, go ahead.
just to let us another small note. Most of I think most of the soundtracks made by this composer are up on like streaming, so like on Spotify and Apple Music. Would highly recommend anyone to go check out his catalog because holy shit!
100%.
Like it's one thing to obviously I like experiencing the music as part of the show. The first time I go, like I listen to it, but I'll always recommend going back and like listening to tracks themselves and just like seeing things you might have missed because there's just so much more to it. It's awesome.
Yeah. So since we had 24 episodes in the runtime, that means we got both 2 OPs and 2 EDs. I want to talk about them briefly. So the first,
Yeah.
let's talk about the OPs first. So the OP for episodes 1 through 12 is River by Anonymous. And the OP for episodes 13 through 24 is Paradox by Survive Said the Prophet.
Fucking banger.
I mean,
Both.
but we're gonna talk about both, both this and the EDs. I don't think you can go wrong with either of the OPs or EDs. They're both, or all 4 of them are good in their own individual way. Personally, I preferred River a little more than Paradox, but it's by a very slim margin.
So how would you compare these 2 OPs to the first season's OPs?
Ooh, man.
I think they're like a fitting follow up. I
wouldn't say that they're like
Yeah.
miles better by any stretch, but I would say as a follow up OP, 100%, they definitely fit.
Paradox
It definitely
might be my
improves on it.
favorite of the series. So
What'd you
far.
say, Chinoda?
I said it definitely improves on it. Like,
Yeah. Well, I think like the visuals in River, right, really complement Thorfinn's character as what he's going through.
So
this arc.
hauntingly beautiful.
Yeah.
So like the arms reaching out to grab him, and like it's so fucking good. Yeah.
And this was mentioned by Vegas in our server while we were doing the watch party for it. It's this River is very reminiscent of intro theme for a show on the History Channel called Vikings.
Oh really?
Yes.
huh,
Huh.
that's cool.
I'll have to
yeah.
check that out later.
It's got a lot of the same like stuff going on in it, and it does kind of remind me a little bit of that. But I don't know. I just think as a whole, I preferred River just like ever so slightly more than Paradox, but both are great.
I don't
Both
even
OPs are
blame you
strong.
because when I was looking at both of them to see which I like better, it's a tough call.
It's a toss up. It really is.
Like, both of them are really up there. They're both holy shit. It's really good. Like,
They
I almost never skipped the OP for these episodes just because I was like, it's a goddamn banger. I want to listen to this every time.
It's also like represented really well, like the two sides of the show. One side being the emotional trauma and growth that Thorfinn is experiencing in River, as he's like he's pulled back by his past and trying to move forward, even with all the sins he committed. And then you have Paradox, which more focuses on like the tragedy of this world, of how much suffering and death surrounds all these people, that some of them are just well-intentioned people thrown into this conflict,
which fits for the setting,
man.
Yeah. Because the story takes place in like an actual point in human history that was very violent, that was very rough, that was very tumultuous.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the EDs. So we have the first ED for the first 12 episodes was Without Love by LMYK, and then the second ED was Ember by Haju Harmonix, which was used for episodes 13 through 24. Here we go.
No, listen. Visually speaking, I'm kind of lukewarm on the EDs. Mostly Without Love, the first ED, I just didn't really do much for me. I do like Amber as a song. I think we talked about it before we started recording. Like, I love the more folksy vibe of it. As you said, it really reminds me of Torches, which is like
was the first ED in the first season.
I love that ED so much.
I mean, it's Eimer, man. So you can't go wrong.
Yeah, you can't go wrong. But in terms of the visuals, they're like, it's fine. It's not gonna stick with me much.
I would say you could. I would say that about both of these EDs. Visually, there's nothing really to write home about, and it's more about the actual songs. Personally, I liked Without Love more, but that's just because I like the Sad Boy Hours songs.
It's a good sad boy song, yeah, definitely. It just, I don't know. I just didn't vibe with this. Like the song, it felt too.
I don't know. Without Love definitely seems like a song that someone who says not a good thing has ever happened to me in my whole life would listen to.
I forgot to say it, but I actually prefer Paradox earlier. And as for the EDs, I actually agree with Alex. Without Love is sad boy hours, but like it gives a at the end of the ED, it's a lot more peaceful, and I just really like that.
I don't know. This song, again, just this is like personal taste. Whenever I listen to that song, it's not bad, but it just feels like it's trying too hard to be so fucking sad. And I'm like, I know it's sad, I know, but it's like, calm down, chill out,
Daddy, chill,
daddy, chill,
Daddy, chill.
My ears.
What's wrong, Daddy?
Oh God, no! Moving on. Moving
along.
moving right along. So I think at this point we're probably going to get into some spoiler stuff and talk about the actual story of the second season. So if you've been with us and you haven't seen the second season yet, please go watch it. It's very good. I think all of us here rate it quite highly. We'll talk about our actual ratings when we get done with the spoiler cast. But yeah,
it's a good anime. Alert. You should watch it.
Yeah, spoiler
Dear
alert.
God. Please
spoiler alert from here on out. So this entire season, save for the final episode, which I'll get to, is an adaptation of the slave arc of the manga,
aka Farmland Saga.
Farmland Saga, yes. So yeah, because a vast majority of this season takes place on Kettle's farm, and it takes place roughly, is it like a year or so after?
It's over the course of multiple years.
I mean, we start out. It's roughly a year after the end.
It's a year after season one. It's a year after, yeah.
And season one ended with the spoilers for season one, if you haven't seen it, ends with the death of Askeladd and Thorfinn trying to assassinate Canute and being put into like slavery,
being sold to slavery,
yeah, as a punishment. And we see the sort of result of that, and we get to watch Thorfinn kind of come to terms with the fact that while he wanted revenge so much, he got to watch someone else kill the person that he wanted to kill.
Can I say the fucking balls of this fucking show to be like, all right, he didn't get his revenge. Now we're gonna fucking talk and cry about it for like 12 to 20 episodes.
Yeah.
Holy shit. What, like, I'm not envious of this mangaka for taking such a extreme turn, but it feels so methodically, like it's
Is it
so well planned out, you know?
is
It
it bad
feels
that, because I think one of the great things about the mangaka who writes Vinland Saga, it's Makoto Yukimura, who also did uh,
planetus.
Planetus, yes, which is also a fucking fantastic manga. Um, I really wish he was a more prolific mangaka because I want more writing by this guy.
Yeah, this fucking
Honestly,
manga has
I'll
been
agree.
going on since 2005, I think.
Yeah, mid 2000s, yeah.
So coming up on 20 years.
Yeah, I don't know,
Crazy.
man. It's crazy, like the quality of writing this guy has, and he knows his stuff because, as was mentioned multiple times when we were reviewing episodes for season one, like this story is, while I won't say it's based on a true story because it takes a lot of liberties with the characters involved.
Sure.
Most of the characters you will see throughout the course of Vinland Saga are characters or people who actually exist or existed back
Sure.
at the turn of the first millennium. I guess it would be the second millennium. And there are, obviously a great deal of licenses that were taken with the characters, but it's also based around actual historical events that happened, and it's great
It's
watching
crazy.
him like weave
Yeah.
all of that into real historical events.
It really reminds me, sidebar. It really reminds me of a certain writer named Ken Follett, which writes a lot of historical fiction,
Hmm.
and it's very much similar. Not to, like, so again with Vinland, it's definitely taking some liberties with the characters, but it really reminds me of Ken Follett's writing. He wrote several books. One of them, Pillars of the Earth, is very well known. I love that book.
Hmm.
It's what his sort of like his approach is to write these fiction, like historical characters in these events that there is a, like, it's a fictional story obviously, but there's a really good chance that these characters, these people, these historical figures might have gone through these small towns on the way in their conquest, or fucking, like, part of building their kingdom, might have gone through these small towns and met these people, interacted with all whatnot. So like it's really, again, with that, as you said, it's really cool how he uses these historical figures in this fictional
Yeah.
story and sort of like weaves his own narrative out of it.
I also
Really
love
fucking cool.
when he'll take like things that actually happened and put them in the story. Like, so
Hmm.
toward the end of this season, there's a scene where Thorfinn and Canute finally meet again for the first time in, like 2 years or whatever, 2.5 years.
I think
Um,
more.
however long it is.
Year and a
And
half, if I remember right, actually.
however long
I'm
it
gonna
is.
look
And
it up.
Canute points to the sea and says, "Let me show you my power. I'll make the seas calm down." Like that comes from that comes from an exchange that historically happened, where
Really?
Yeah,
Canute got
it's a real
so
thing.
frustrated with one of his thanes talking about how powerful he was, where he pointed to the sea and said, "I'll show you exactly how powerful I am. I'll stop the sea from being so rough." And he commanded, like, he, a big boisterous voice, commanded the sea to stop, and it wouldn't. And he turned to his thane and said, "Stop telling everyone I'm more powerful than I am. I'm not a god."
Huh.
That's actually
That's crazy.
an exchange which we have historical proof for.
That's really fucking cool.
I love shit like that. It's like John mentioned in the last monthly dump that we did, where we talked briefly about Vinland Saga season 2. I love historical, like, period dramas, and like it's one of the reasons I love Vinland Saga.
Yep. The fact that he can intermix actual history into this show, which
Hmm.
definitely has taken liberties. Obviously, it's just
Yes.
a project on character growth. Um, the fact that he managed to put those in there so seamlessly,
Hmm.
it's quite frankly amazing, and honestly a really good time when you actually discover, Oh, that's a real thing that happened. Holy shit, that's so cool.
Yeah, I wish I could say the same thing about like the whole premise of this arc, but I don't think there's
3
any
years.
actual 3 years. Okay.
Oh, was it 3
So
years?
this arc is happening over the course of 3 years. Yeah.
I don't think there's any actual historical evidence that the real Thorfinn Karlsefni was ever enslaved. And
big
also
deal.
the real life.
I'm sure you
Thorfinn-
do.
Well, the real
sure he
life
didn't
Thorfinn came
mind.
from a pretty well off family too.
I'm sure he doesn't mind he's portrayed as a sad anime boy.
Well, he's been dead for like 1,500 years, so
See, who cares?
actually almost more than 1,500 years.
Yeah.
But
Anyway,
Thorfinn. So in the first episode, we barely even see him.
so what did you guys think of Einar's
Anus.
introduction to this?
Aner.
Just call him what he is, Natai. He's a cuck.
Why? Why would you do that?
Like,
By the end of this,
stop.
he gets cucked to shit.
Why?
Oh my
Stop.
fucking god! Shut up.
Oh, I forgot who am I speaking
be a
to.
weirdo.
God damn it. Ugh. Alex, we can't all like fucking act upon our sexual fantasies, You can keep it to yourself.
But yes,
Alex,
Einar.
get off Twitter. Stop talking about.
I know,
cooking.
right?
But yes, Einar. Like
Hey, you mean
You-
X.com?
You'd-
Don't remind me.
you'd be forgiven for thinking that like every single season there's gonna be a new main character, I guess. The first episode. Because they're portraying Einar as he's gonna be like the main character, and then all of a sudden, oh, here's Thorfinn.
No, it's very much. It's like, okay, who is this fucking guy, and where is my boy? It's like, oh no, my boy is a very sad boy now.
He's a very sad enslaved boy.
It's interesting. I remember I saw this interview with the mangaka where it was like, I needed to create a character that will become Thorfinn's friend in order for him to grow, and that's when Einar came into the story. And after like thinking about that, like with that lens about the story, like, oh, okay, because then you realize that's like, because in the story, it's sort of when he becomes a slave and slowly gets to know Thorfinn, it's like becoming that sort of guy who pushes Thorfinn to be like, hey, fucking snap out of it, man. Let's fucking get this shit over with and stop, just like be better,
Well,
because
they,
life
they,
isn't
they
all
have
just about
they
murder
have
and
very they have very different like responses to being enslaved. Thorfinn doesn't.
Sure.
It seems like he couldn't give two shits about being enslaved. It's like he's
Because for
accepted.
Thorfinn, it's like his life is over at this point.
Yeah, he's
know?
accepted his fate. It's like, all right, this is how it's going to be for the rest of my life. That's when he has his spiel about nothing good has ever happened to me in my whole life. It's like, man, I've been 13. I've been there, man. But then you have
Sure.
Einar, who is very recently enslaved, and is like, all right, I just got to do everything I can to just get out of this. I can earn my freedom.
Yeah.
And it's very different, like, feelings about being enslaved.
Yeah. Because again, someone like one of them has no purpose in his life anymore because his purpose was stolen in big A quotations from him, and the other one still like has something driving him to get out of this situation.
Despite the
But
fact
man,
that he
that-
watched his mother and his sister die right in front of him.
But man, that fucking first time when they talk to each other properly, and like, because at first when Einar realizes that Thorfinn used to be one of those same Vikings who just murdered his family, he literally tries to murder him. He's like start to strangle
in
him
his sleep.
Yeah, and then he sees how much he's tormented by his past sins.
Mhm.
And I was fucking blew my mind when they like at a certain point, it's like they talk about their emotions, like this
Men
fucking
talking
anime.
about their emotions, that's gay.
In my anime?
Bro, there's nothing more manly than seeing two grown men talk about their emotions. It's so fucking good.
I mean, just watch JoJo's, man. But yeah, for sure. Like, and it's
Watch
those things
JoJo's, your penis will grow 2 inches larger.
easily, and that's on the smaller side. Like, it can grow up to 6 inches longer. Come on, you know this, especially if you
Literally.
get to
Literally,
Steel
come
Ball
on.
Run. But no, like you get a lot of scenes like that throughout the course of the second season, where it's
Yeah.
just men talking about how they feel to each other. Oh, not always men. I mean, you got a couple of women that you talk to like that too. But
This is for the sad boys.
this is
This
for
is
the
the sad boy
boys.
club.
This is the women are not allowed in the sad boy club.
Women be gone.
And that's one of the things I absolutely love about this season. Although I feel like that's one of the reasons it was criticized by some people as hard as it was, because it was so different from the first season. And I understand it.
Sure.
I touched on this during our last WTF where I understand people's trepidations about how different the second season is from the first, which if you go into the third season, you're probably going to have the exact same trepidations. It's not going to be like the first. Every season or every story arc is going to be different because Vinland Saga, as much as it is a great historical period drama that explores the setting and the time around which the story takes place, it is also primarily a character study of Thorfinn.
Yeah, it's but
at different
like
points
at
in
face
his life.
value. But at face value, be like, oh, there's less action, big no. But
Yeah.
when you consider what the show is trying to go for, was like seeing this guy face his trauma and he tries to find a way to sort of redeem himself and try and find a better path to go about, living his life and trying to solve his problems. It's so fucking powerful because it's kind of it makes so much sense the more you get into it, because with season one, it started out he's this very wide-eyed kid being like, and his father Thor is teaching him, even though he's like looking to fight and he wants to be a warrior, his father is like, you have no enemies, right?
Mm.
No one is trying to hurt you. You don't have to live a life of violence. And then the tragedy happens. Thor dies, and Thorfinn is consumed by vengeance. He tries to kill Askeladd, and Askeladd is like, everyone is your enemy.
Because everyone was his enemy.
For him, yeah. And you only have yourself to live with. Everyone's your enemy. You can't trust anyone.
Yeah.
And then when that vengeance consumes Thorfinn, but is taken from him, his entire agency is like gone. It's like, what am I supposed to do with myself? I have no purpose right now.
Not just his agency, but his person as a whole.
Yeah, because that fucking scene where they're talking to the grandpa, Keta's father, and they start fishing, and Thorfinn's like, can I do this? I feel so empty. I have nothing in me. And the grandpa is like, okay, so fill yourself up with something new. Learn new skills. Find things to fulfill yourself more. And it's like, holy fucking shit.
I'm not gonna lie,
that's so powerful,
When he was speaking to Thorfinn about that, for a moment it felt like he was just talking to me, and I got hit hard with that, man. I had to pause the episode. I'm like,
it's
fuck,
powerful.
I need to grow up a little bit. I'm just like, Jesus Christ.
It's a powerful moment. I remember talking to one of my buddies, and he was like, who's the actual MVP of this fucking season?
Really, though? Who is?
It's like the grandpa. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I love that scene so much.
I think the Spherical, the Kettle's father, I feel like he plays a very important role in the story, not only to Thorfinn and Einar,
also to Einhard as well.
But he's it's like watching someone who has lived a life that they kind of regret and trying at the end to make up for all of their past mistakes by actually being kind to the very same people that they weren't kind to in the past.
Yeah, definitely. It's cool that we get a glimpse of his past as well. And it's him seeing his history repeats itself, same old story again and again. And he was trying to do his best at helping these people in need that he can, right?
Do you know something that also strikes me about, well, not just this season, because I think you have a lot of this in the first season too, but do you remember one of the things, Natai, you said when we were doing our spoiler cast for Arcane? and you said that there's not a single character in the show that feels like you don't know a lot about them despite having very little screen time.
What?
Like it's very
Mm.
they use the screen time they have very efficiently.
Very efficiently. Yeah.
I feel like the same can be said about the new characters that we have here in the second season.
Definitely.
There's very few of them by the end of the season that we don't feel like we have like a complete backstory or
Definitely.
whatever for.
Even the
because
fucking
they gave us-
retainers.
Yeah. Even the retainers, like you have Snake and Fox and Badger, like they all get
Yeah.
developed.
Even those fucking assholes like Fox and Badger, it's like they're pieces of shit, but you see the camaraderie and how much they rely on each other and how much they trust Snake, and it's like you
just
can't
not-
help
they're
but
not
see them.
just stereotypical bad guys. They're like actual people with personalities, wants, needs.
Yeah.
I'll
And
give
like
you-
it's not like they gave like them whole arcs or anything, but they gave us just enough character description for us to actually care a little bit.
Which I'll give you a great example of this. So throughout the majority of the second season's run, you have the character of Fox, right, who is
Right.
just this very egotistical. He's very full of himself. He thinks he's a great warrior and stuff, and that's only because the only things he's ever had to face are like wild animals that get on the farm, or the occasional thief or burglar,
Or
right?
slave.
That he has to, or uppity slave that he has to beat down. Sure,
Yeah.
that's all he's ever had to face. When he actually has to face a legitimate army, his fucking legs are shaking like crazy.
Yeah. It's
He's terrified.
I think Vinland Saga as a whole, both season 1 and 2, just do such a good job at portraying people. You know, like they might at first seem like caricatures to you, but you see them at their like weakest points, and you see like they're just like people. You know, just regular ass people in these like very extreme situations, and it's so real, it's so raw. You know.
But yeah, it's
It's
one of the
fucking
great
awesome.
things I love about this style of writing is that just so many
Yeah.
characters end up getting fleshed out, and it's like we were talking about with Arcane. It's just it's fun to watch.
Definitely. It's so satisfying as well to see the growth. I think one of the most interesting characters in the entire series is Canute. Like his transformation in season 1, where he's come from this very religious background, is very meek and very sort of like in his like is very naive about how the world works. And then when it all snaps, and it's like there's no God above us. He's just like he hates us. You know, he's like very defiant against God in his quest to like create a better world. It's very defiantly and very in spite of God, right? And you see how that growth leads to all the fucking atrocities that like he does in season 2, like the power, like how he slowly controls England, how he gains more power, how he and
Becomes
how he
the
just
king
like
of Denmark.
becomes and it's so fucking fast. I honestly think it's one of the
Which
like,
is
the most
historically
fascinating
accurate,
characters
by
in
the way. He did poison his brother in real life.
Oh yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Holy
Yes.
shit.
In the real life, Canute the Great was very very
Blood
conniving.
fucking thirsty.
He was very ruthless. He was very conniving, but he did come from more or less humble background, as humble as you can be for someone who was born into a royal family.
Yeah, right.
Um,
But he's like
Yeah.
scheming, and his like plans is so fucking man. It's so engaging to watch him just like plan all the time. You know.
I mean, and the
I
real
loved it.
life Canute the Great was also a brilliant military tactician.
Oh, yeah?
So is a natural leader, which I think comes across in the show in Vinland Saga.
It really does.
I love that scene when he's training with that. I don't know the name of the guy he was training with, but like you could see like he's not the greatest fighter, but he's still very sharp. He's very quick on
He
his
can
feet.
hold his
He's
own
like
in a fight. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and he's very I mean he's kind of very manipulative, and he's not an quote unquote honorable fighter, but he's like he's not a pushover as well. I
Yeah.
love the way they built his character. It's fucking
Yeah.
awesome.
What was that?
Especially when
talk-
you lead up to the end of the season, but we'll get to
Yes. Can we talk for a moment about episode 8? Because it's probably one of my favorite episodes in the entire season.
that
And
series.
Well, yeah, series thus far.
That
So
was
we get
a
Askeladd.
Hell episode, right?
Yeah, we get Askeladd back, and we get to watch an absolutely Dantean version of Thorfinn's personal hell. I like he actually
Literally.
asks Askeladd if he's in Valhalla, and Askeladd's like, "Look around you.
What do you think?
Does this look like paradise to you?"
Yeah. Literally what he says, what he told Thorfinn, that everyone's his enemy. This is the hell he was talking about, right?
Hmm.
It's like, oh my god, it's so fucking good.
That
Man, I want to watch this episode again now.
if I had to pick, like, we don't do like awards
Episode
for
of the year.
best scenes or best episodes, but that would
It's
be
up there.
definitely, it would be up there
Definitely.
for this year,
It's
for
up
sure.
there.
But man, that whole conversation is so fucking good. The dialogue is absolutely awesome. Oh,
And it's again, it's when you think about it, just Thorfinn in his head trying to like come to terms with his fucking trauma, right? And he's reflecting on everything he was taught from ACAD. When he sort of realizes that he will be just consumed by that, he was consumed by that vengeance, and that he doesn't like. There has to be another way. And when he does that, when he climbs up that fucking like
Tower of Corpses.
tower of corpses, and again, one of the peaks of the animation this season, in my opinion, when it like goes through that, like literally climbs through that vision and comes out the other side, and it's like, I will not hurt anyone anymore. It's like, holy shit! I remember watching that episode and then writing. I did write in general. I did write down in general. Fuck you, Alex. I tried to engage. I went to the Discord like, holy shit, Vinland Saga just like did one of the best TV episodes of the year. Like, holy fucking shit!
And that line that Askeladd says, the only way you're ever going to be able to get to paradise is if you climb over the corpses of everyone you've killed.
And I think, like, obviously that vision he had, that dream he had, was just him mentally trying to come to terms with himself for everything he's done. I honestly think
That's powerful.
if he couldn't manage to have climb back up that hill, so to speak, I think he would have woken up with a mental breakdown, or maybe not even wake up at all.
He would have lost himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Truly think that was the make or break for his mind.
Which is supposed to be the lesson you learn from revenge stories, is that if you completely consume yourself with it, you will lose yourself.
Oh, there,
Guts.
Alex.
Yeah, guts, berserk. That's supposed to be the whole thing about revenge stories, is like, once you get it, you have nothing. You will be nothing. You will lose yourself.
But again, what a fucking brilliant move of writing a revenge story, only to like take away
it away.
that sort of to take away that from the main character. Like, I remember before season 2 came out, so my buddy, a friend of ours, Ariel, he told me about, man, just prepare yourself for something very different. And I can't stress it enough how much I adore the slow burn of this season.
Oh, me too.
I love the pacing of this season. It's so methodical,
can I just say,
you know?
I feel like anime needs more of this. It needs more, whether it's stuff that's based on manga that's already out there or anime original stories. We need more stuff that's kind of slow paced, that's aimed specifically at adults, like Vinland Saga, like Violet Evergarden. We need more shit like this in anime. I know it's not gonna it's gonna be the huge seller of shonen and shit, but my God, it's so fucking good when it's done well.
Alex,
do you remember...
I have to agree with you, but I have to say it's just not viable, because
I know
there
it's not
aren't
viable,
enough
but I
people
still
like
want it.
us that can actually pay the fuck attention or learn.
What do you mean it's not viable? This is one of the most popular mangas in Japan right now.
No, but like anime wise,
Internationally, it's probably not
people...
viable though.
Yeah, too many people don't have the goddamn attention span for stuff like this anymore.
Have you forgot how much of a fucking slow burn Breaking Bad was, and it's still like the most popular shows of the 2010s?
But those were normies.
And to be fair, with Breaking Bad, you very rarely had to wait more than a year between seasons.
Mushoku Tensei had the most slow ass burn, like slow burn.
I agree with you, and that's why Mushoku Tensei is a fucking good
and
isekai.
and he fucking rules, you know. And that was a massive hit. What are you talking about?
I'm not
There's
saying
room for that.
I'm not saying there's no like market for it, because clearly there is. Where stuff like this, Violet Evergarden, you could argue Mushoku Tensei, although I would say that it's like its premise, like the whole isekai premise, isn't very adult.
It's a very slow isekai, especially.
It's a very slow burn, but I want more shit like this. God, can we get more fucking historical period dramas in anime too that aren't just set in Japan?
I haven't watched Kingdom, but wait a minute. Fucking Golden Kamuy is a historical period shit,
and I fucking love it.
Only it's not a slow burn. It's a really
it's very fast paced, honestly.
Oh yeah. Those CG birds will run over you.
But no, more stuff like that, more historical period dramas. It works so well.
It's so fucking good, dude.
But yeah, that whole episode 8 of Vinland Saga season 2, probably one of my favorite anime episodes ever.
It's really fucking good. Yeah, it's like it's just solid. The direction, the music, the acting. It's all just so well put together, and it tells a coherent story from beginning to end, and it's so fucking powerful. It's really chef's kiss.
Also, kind of going back to the historical aspect of the show, there's probably people alive today who their only knowledge or exposure to the concept of slavery is going to be American slavery, pre-world or pre-Civil War. What did you guys think of how slavery is actually portrayed in this show? Because I will say, in general, it is kind of historically accurate that largely throughout history, slavery had very little to do with race. Occasionally it did, but mostly it was about whoever was less powerful was the ones who were enslaved.
Yeah. I feel like the portrayal of slavery in the anime was done pretty well. Even if it didn't feel as brutal or as oppressive, it definitely was. You had to make sure you were watching and paying attention, but there was definitely violence and rape shown throughout the show that did happen, and it is very much one-to-one how it was.
Dude, you literally near the end of the show when
Kenneth comes and beats the shit out of Einhard for
not just pregnant. That, the dude who's watching her, the security person, is man, there's a woman here and I can't do anything about it. If it were up to me, I'd be raping you right now. It's chill, daddy.
Yeah,
it's rough.
It was,
but you know what? Shit like that happened.
Bro, that scene when Kenneth just beats the shit out of her that's rough.
It's brutal.
Yeah, that was dark.
Man,
that was
even
rough.
I was just Jesus, I really can't right now.
I was watching that. I'm I don't think I should be here right now. I'm gonna go.
I don't feel comfortable.
Her entire arc was
Man, her entire arc was depressing.
Yeah, it was not nice. But man, it was so fucking on the one hand, I get what they were going for with her husband coming back and whatnot. It's don't do it! Don't fucking do it! You'll just get hurt! When she fucking tries to go and free him. It's you'll know it's not gonna work out, bro. Come on. It's
But at the same time, it's yes, of course
you can't blame her.
Anything and everything for the love of your life. And it's just fuck, this is...
Yeah.
This is not okay.
To be fair, she was remembering her husband for how he was, not how he is.
That poor man, he was.
I mean, you could
broken in.
You could still argue that it's stupid, and I agree, but no, that's also kind of a running theme throughout this this entire season, is showing what happens when men get backed into a corner and have nothing to lose, because it happens multiple times. You see it with Einhard's Arnhide's husband Gardar. You see it with Kettle when he gets disrespected. He feels like he's backed into a corner and has no choice but to fight a losing battle. Hell, you see it with You see it with Snake when he chooses to
Yeah.
actually stay behind and fight, even though he knows they're going to lose.
Yep. Speaking of Kettle, I loved the sort of how pathetic he is to some extent, right? How everyone's
Because
like,
he's
oh,
living a lie.
because he's living. It's like Iron Head Kettle. It's just the legend. It's like he was like, I just happened to be named the same name as that fucking guy. It wasn't me, you know. It's kind of like I love how the show wasn't afraid to portray him as like a very pathetic character, even though at first he's like a very kind, very, very, very fair master to his slaves, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what he seems. It's like, oh wow, he's like very honest with
lets them buy their freedom.
Yeah, lets them buy their freedom. And then you see like the weakness in him and the brutality he has. How he was like, oh no, someone's about to take my fucking, the only woman I was able to be comforted by.
Mm-hmm.
So he lashes out and just like pretty much kills her, right?
Yeah.
And it's heartbreaking. It's terrible.
With an unborn child in her belly. His unborn child.
Yay.
Abortion.
Oh, thanks, Alex.
Um,
It's a shame you guys are not going to be able to do that legally, right?
Please don't remind us of the hellhole we live in, okay? Can we not?
No, like that whole family though is interesting to watch because you have Kettle.
Fucking Olmar, man.
I know.
Damn
No,
it.
I want to talk about that. You got Kettle, who's apparently living a lie. He basically is telling people he's someone that he's not, and he feels bad about it too.
But he's not afraid to take advantage of it.
But he is not afraid to take advantage of it. Then you have Thorgil, who is like this the successful older brother who's kind of gone off. He's done his own thing. He's actually a Thane of Canute. Granted, he's like a very junior one. But and then you have Olmar, who's like the spoiled rich kid who thinks he's hot shit, and then he tries to go do something and he gets one up so easily.
Man, that scene of him trying to cut that fucking pig.
That was so embarrassing. I felt so bad for him.
And then like he acts like he wants
idiot.
He acts like he wants to go to battle so much, and then the one time he's in battle and he actually kills somebody, he gets traumatized by it.
I love how by the end of the show he's like the most level-headed out of everyone because it's like come to terms with like this is kind of fucked. I'd rather people not die on this farm so we can rebuild and
So I'm a huge fan of his character. Actually, I really
by the end of the show,
he went from spoiled brat who was just a complete piece of shit to an actual human being with an appreciation for life and hard work, and like they showed us his character growth as well. And he wasn't even one of the main side characters. Well, he sort of was, but at the same time,
by the end he is.
Yeah, by the end he is, but he started off as not. I
the
really
power of a mustache, man.
that.
The power of mustaches, yes.
Honestly, though.
I mean, just ask Leif Erikson, my boy.
But yeah. Good character growth on him as well.
Is it weird? Is it weird that Leif Erikson adopts someone who looks like Thorfinn and calls him Thorfinn?
Speaking of Leif,
that's needed to handle his shit psychologically somehow. Of all the ways to do it, that's not the worst. Go ahead, Nitai.
I'm just gonna like because Alex brought it up. Like that's the only story complaint I sort of have with the second season is because when you get to the actual moment of Leif and Thorfinn meeting, you would at that point they haven't seen each other for like 4 years, and it felt I don't know if it's just because like I have a theory why it was done like that, but anyway, the point is when they do meet, it's very abrupt and they sort of like glance over it because at that moment it's around the time that Einhard, is it Einhard or am I is like that's her name, right? Arnheid. Fucking A. Arnheid. At that point, Arnheid is dying, right? And you get through that whole story bit of she's dying and like the baby's dead as well, probably, and all that. It's very sad. So I get that they're just not trying to take away from the emotion of that scene of Arnheid dying. It's very sad, and
But we
we're all
didn't have
sad
the
boys now.
emotional reunion between Thorfinn and
Yeah.
Leif.
But exactly, and it's such a. I was like, no, you were so perfect, and it really took me out. That
we were
I don't
this
know.
close to greatness.
Was it the
Natai,
manga?
I fully agree with you.
Did they have that scene in the manga, or they also in the manga kind of glance over that meeting?
I don't really recall there being like a huge emotional moment in the manga when they meet again. Because like you say, there is another big emotional thing that's going on that needs to be taken care of, and I think that's really why, because to have two emotional moments, one really happy and one really sad going on simultaneously, narratively just doesn't work.
It doesn't make sense, but it pisses me off because I'm like, they're finally meeting after all these years. I was
in reality,
I was
like
ready.
In reality, yes, I can imagine that when they first see each other, yeah, there's going to be this big like oh, let's hug, bro moment. But I understand narratively why they didn't do it, because it would be really out of place at the time when it happens.
It really took me out of the episode. Where did that happen? Because throughout season 1, Leif was looking for Thorfinn, and then he found him, and then they got separated again. And then throughout season 2, obviously he's looking for him again. At that point, they haven't seen each other for like 4 years. And so obviously you're gonna have a bit of a build-up, and you're looking forward to, oh shit, they're gonna see each other again. And especially at this point in the show when Thorfinn is like so different. Now they do kind of go back to that, where it's like, oh, you changed so much, Thorfinn, but it's like,
after the fact, though. That's after they've already had a chance to meet again.
And it's like, it was handled so awkwardly and not in a very elegant way. That's like in terms of like story beats, that's like the one thing I had that's the one gripe I have with the season.
I almost do wish that they had met each other again for the first time at a different point in the story, like before all the stuff with Arnheid like really kicks off, because I think you would have then been able to have that big emotional like reunion.
It's just, because you have the buildup of like Leif talking to Catwell. It's like, oh, I'm looking for this guy named Thorfinn.
You have,
and then it happens like, oh, but wait, she's dying. Oh no, oh my god, we're gonna,
Yeah, I just think narratively it would have been too much of a like whiplash to have that all happening at the same time in the same place. Now, if they had been in a different like place when all that was going on, then I could see it happening. But I don't know, it just narrative. I get the desire for it to happen. I just think that if they had done it narratively, it wouldn't have been very good.
The thing is, it's kind of weird. I wonder if they should have waited with Leif arriving till after Arnheid's arc ended, and then right when you get to the Battle of the Farm, and then around that time, that's when he arrives, because that like he gets there right at the end of her story, but it's like, they could have done it in a different way, that these two story like emotional like beats wouldn't overlap with each other at all. I mean, they don't overlap because they just glance over one of them, but kind of disappointing, honestly.
Yeah,
I love this show.
So when I see that, I kind of like hand wave it as, okay, this happened off screen.
I didn't like that though. Like I'm sure if it's something like that, but I wished we could have seen it. I really do, because just like Natai, it took me out of the moment. I was just like,
because Leif is a big part of the first season.
Yeah, no, really. Yeah. I was just like, where's the joyous reunion? Where like, and one moment he's arriving, the next they're just standing side by side. I'm like, the fuck? Like, did they
talk to each other?
Did they like completely forget to put a scene into the anime? I was just so confused.
I will say it's crazy to me that they're in the show, because knowing what I know about the actual like real life Leif Erikson, it's crazy to me that there's people in the show who don't know who he is, because in his day Leif Erikson was like an actual rock star. Everyone knew who he was.
Yep.
He didn't have to like name drop himself. Everyone knew what he looked like. Everyone knew who he was. So like that scene where Leif Erikson goes to like pick up Thorfinn and Einar after they've been restrained for trying to help with the escape attempt. Snake would have known who he was. He wouldn't have had to say, "Oh, you didn't have permissions." Like they would have just said, "Oh, fuck, you're Leif Erikson. Jesus, let me take your money. You can have these people."
Man really was on that level. Yeah.
He was like the 1000 AD equivalent of a rock star.
Snake was also a really cool character. I really like him.
Yeah, I loved watching Snake because when he's first introduced, you think he's like this lazy layabout guy. His only job is to really just patrol the farm at night. But like once you actually watch him grow, you're like, man, this is a dude who's seen some shit and just.
I love his relationship to Kettle's father. You know.
Yeah, it's almost like a grandson taking care of his grandfather in his final days or something like that. I also like that scene where he's reading the Bible to Spherical while he's in bed because we find out that the grandfather can't even read.
Yeah.
And then you also have that like cutaway where you see Thorfinn listening at the window.
Listening in, that's right.
And
yeah.
Arnhide's like, I didn't realize Thorfinn was Christian, and Einar's like, he's not. He just really likes the stories. Which we in the business call that foreshadowing.
There's so many small character moments in this season, especially that it gives you so much more to like enjoy and dig into the characters. Whether it's Snake reading the Bible to Kettle's father, whether it's Thorfinn and like Einar like always asking to lend his horses so they can work more easily on the farm. It's like you get to see this like small community interacting with each other. It's
all
so
those
really
scenes
cool.
where you get to watch the farmhands slowly gain more and more respect for Thorfinn because like you see the first time they have like that big interaction is them destroying the fucking wheat field.
Fucking assholes.
And then by the end of it, they're like, God damn, I respect the hell out of you.
Yep.
So what did you guys think of how Thorfinn goes about being a pacifist leading up to the final, like the peak, you could say, like the climax of the arc of the 1000 hits?
Oh, the punches.
The punches.
Yeah, it's 100.
Was it 1,000 or 100?
100.
100. Yeah.
100, sorry.
Punches.
And X of Zero. So what did you think of that? Because holy shit, that was something else, man.
It definitely shows his desire to like want to maintain peaceful outcomes to things, and his dedication to it. I don't know how realistic it is, but
I don't. While
I
not
think it can be done.
It can be done. You just be a bloody oozing mess at
which
that
by
point.
the end of it he was.
Because throughout the show, especially through season 1, they always reinforce how much of endurance he has, right? Like there's so many moments where he's like fighting, but it's like some of his ribs are broken or he's like really fucked up. That one, like there's so many fights in season 1 where it's just like that, fighting when he's already really damaged, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just love how like that moment where they're like they get to like the final blows or whatever, and the guy was like fighting, he was like he's so exhausted he barely like touches him with a fist, because he's so out of breath. And then everyone's like, holy shit. Like, they gain respect for him for standing his ground like that, Like, I love that scene so much.
Yeah.
It's fucking awesome.
I was curious what you guys thought about, like, because toward the end of this season, the big climax is Thorfinn actually meeting Canute again. The man who sentenced Thorfinn to being an actual slave.
I want to watch that episode again because there's so much going into like Canute is such a complicated character, right? With his like grandiose like ambitions to create a better world, but as you can see, in the meantime, all he did was fucking start wars, kill his brothers, and he's
talking with the disembodied head of his father.
Pretty much.
That was creepy.
And then you get to that point when Thorfinn is trying to like plead with him to like not do this and let these people live and go the fuck away, and that moment when Canute starts laughing because he realizes that Thorfinn is everything he is not, and he's claiming he wants to be. It's like shit, man. It's it's so wild to see how he sort of like reacted like that when he realizes that Thorfinn sort of reaches that epiphany that he was looking for all this time. Of like, no, I'm going to go away from this shithole and create an actual place where like there will be no wars or no slaves and no one will hurt each other, right?
Mm-hmm. I love that shit, man.
That scene was
man, because you going into it, you don't necessarily know what Canute is gonna do because he seems hell bent on taking over this farm, exiling the family, because he has these very grandiose plans for making Denmark incredibly prosperous and being able to feed and
so many
take
people,
care of the people back in England that he's already conquered. But then Thorfinn arrives and it's like, dude, you don't have to do this.
And it's like literally like I did. I'm sorry, Chona, go ahead.
The fact that he just went up to him and was like, "Chill the fuck out, relax,
Daddy, chill."
And Canute was like, I think I will, and literally changes the course of fucking history because of that.
It's crazy. Because I was like, why would Canute like back off? And then when he sees that in Thorfinn, like his conviction and what he's going for is like genuinely like trying to like find a better place for like people to live in. He's like, well, shit. What the fuck am I doing? Right?
Honestly, it kind of felt like that. It was just a moment of recollection for Canute of coming from Thorfinn. And like
when he's like breaking down,
few and only men to actually stand up to him, he was just struck hard by that.
Yeah, it's a great scene.
Kind of fascinating, right? It's really fascinating.
It's an absolutely phenomenal scene. And then
again,
you get like
the voice acting was like,
oh yeah. But then you get that scene afterwards, after it all happens, with the actual history behind it about how Canute didn't actually go through with the plan, and instead he actually focused on lessening the restrictions on the English people that he conquered, and because of that, they were actually like, "Wow, he's actually a really fucking good leader. We'll follow him."
Crazy how that worked, right?
Certainly better than his brother
or his dad.
Yeah,
I mean, the bar wasn't that high.
No,
he kind of lost his head on the way.
And he actually like disbands some of his fleets, and it's like, wow, if you actually make the people under you feel like they're safe and appreciated, they might actually like you.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wild, right?
Wild shit, I know, but I do want to talk about the final episode though. So for the two of you, which I don't think neither of you have read the manga, right?
Nope.
I want to ask, did the final episode, because the next to last episode really feels like it's the end of the story, and it's like, okay, we have a goal, the end of this part of the story or this arc.
Oh no. Okay, hold on. Before we get to that, can I one or two episodes before that when he finally goes home?
That's what I'm talking about. That's the final episode, Shinoda.
Was it the final episode?
Yes, the fucking episode's called Home. Yes.
Oh, right. For some reason I was okay. Never mind. Yeah, go on.
Okay, so yeah,
should have had a brain fart.
He did literally. I watched him have a stroke in real time. It was fascinating.
It's a long day. Okay, fuck off.
But no. So the next to last episode really wraps up a lot of the threads of this arc very, very well. And then you have a goal in mind for what comes after that. We go home, we see what we can do there, and then we try and find Vinland, right? For you who didn't read the manga, did it not feel like the final episode was like a prologue to the next arc?
It felt like, so definitely the penultimate felt like, oh, that's the end, right? Like, we're done. That's the end of the season. There's another episode. What the fuck? And then, but the final episode felt like both an epilogue and sort of like, oh, okay, this is where we're literally where we're headed to next season, whenever that's gonna come around, right?
That's how it felt for me as well.
I want to tell you, there's a reason it feels like that. Is because it's an adaptation of the first chapter of the next arc.
Those mad
Yay.
lads. I fucking love them.
Yeah, that's
I wonder
that
when
that
we'll get
episode.
that, but yeah.
That episode is actually an adaptation of the very first chapter of the next arc, the Eastern Expedition arc.
Ooh.
That is the title of it. But I love that entire episode is very emotional, especially when he has that reunion. Thorfinn has the reunion with his
With
mother.
his mother.
Oh
Yeah.
my god! Now let me tell
So
you
With
something.
fucking
his
You
good.
watch,
sister first, and Jesus,
yeah,
I
who
love
doesn't
her.
think it's actually him? But no, like that reunion with his mother is you watch him release like 3 years worth of just
Bro.
built up pain all at once,
Bro,
3 fucking probably 10
Well,
years
well,
of
really
like
16 years.
yeah.
bro, I fucking cried.
Man, that's some heavy shit. That is some heavy shit. It was hard to watch.
That ending was so good, yeah. I
And like,
love the ending of that season.
unlike his sister, when as soon as his mother saw him, she's like, "Oh, you're Thorfinn. Oh fuck, my son is back."
Um, and also, like I mentioned it earlier, that scene where where Thorfinn is by himself, kind of staring at the aurora off in the distance, and just like he almost looks like he's contemplating the future, and then he has that vision of like his younger self and his father coming to him, and it's like, you know what you got to do, right? And also, just like the end of the first season, you have this little montage of characters, some of which you know, some of which you don't know.
Yeah, I noticed that. It
That
was
was
like
cool.
yeah, I was like, okay. I guess it's like a sort of like a to get you hyped for the next season whenever that will come around, but it is
Yeah.
what it is.
I don't know. The end of the first season of Vinland Saga is kind of iconic. That whole like montage in Thorfinn's dagger that you see, and then you kind of go.
I
to all the
forgot
different
about that.
settings.
I don't remember that at all. I need to
Oh,
go back and look for it.
it's a great bit of cinematography. I highly recommend you go watch it again.
I'll go back and watch it.
But I love the way this ends. It gives us a nice little bow on top of everything that happened, and it gets us kind of hyped for what is to come. I don't think it could have ended any better than it did.
I just
Honestly, was
honestly
satisfied.
don't. Yeah, I just don't know how they can keep up because like the farm arc was set like you realize its purpose, right, and
Mhm.
what it was trying to do, and the journey they took Thorfinn on during this arc, and I'm like, what now? I'm trying to like in terms of his character, like where are you taking him now? And I'm so curious to see how if they can even live up to what we got so far, because so far it was fucking awesome. Season 1, season 2, just like really fucking awesome anime. You know, I'm like, I'm kind of curious to see where it goes next. You know, we're really curious.
So at the time of recording, a third season or continuation
Wasn't announced.
hasn't been announced. I have to imagine it will eventually happen, especially now that Mappa has control of it, and they seem like they'd only want to do like full on adaptations of things. If I had to guess, I would say we'll probably get a third season sometime mid to late 2025, if not early 2026.
I hope that's
you
when
wanna
it'll be
bet
coming
on
out.
No, I don't.
That?
Because let me tell you something. I never would have bet on the fact that Spice and Wolf would be getting a remake, and we're getting that next year. So
That's fair.
you never know. The anime industry is in a very interesting place now. There's things happening that I never thought we'd see.
Indeed.
And yet we still don't
definitely
have a
agree.
second season of No Game, No Life. God damn it.
That's something that will never happen ever.
God, never say never, my friend.
I'll believe it when I see it.
But unless you guys have anything else to add, that's the second season of Vinland Saga. It was great.
It was
It's
beyond
fucking
great.
awesome.
Fuck you.
Huh? What do you say, Chinoda?
I said it was beyond great. Fuck you.
Well,
Oh,
I did want to end with that. So, what do we give Vinland Saga season 2 out of 10?
Let me
9.
pull up Mal real quick.
Because
It's
I gave it a 9, which is the exact same score I gave the first season.
Same. It's very different, but it's very intentional.
I would say it's an easy 9 out of 10. it's verging on something like a 9.5 out of 10.
I give
9
it
out
a
of 10
really
for me
close.
as well. Yeah.
All right, well,
Yeah.
9 out of
It
10
was-
across
I
the
agree.
board. I think it's safe to say that we definitely think this is a great anime. I also think it's very safe to say this will definitely be a nominee for Anime of the Year during our awards show in about 6 months.
Oh, absolutely.
God, it's so soon.
Oh God, Natai.
Will Natai even qualify for the award
Will
show?
Natai be able to qualify any of his opinions this year? Let's tune in and find out.
If I'll fucking stop giving a chance to John's shit romance shows, maybe I'll fucking get around to it. I'm sorry. I gave it 5 episodes. It's just fine. I'm sorry.
But yeah, that is going to be it for us. Thank you, everyone, for stopping by to watch us talk about one of our favorite anime of 2023, Vinland Saga Season 2. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff down below. If you like what you saw and want to see more, share it around. Tell us what you thought of the second season of Vinland Saga, because I am interested to read and hear what our followers thought about it as well. And especially if you're someone who thought the second season was boring, I'd like to actually hear your thoughts on why exactly you thought that was.
You're wrong,
fine to
and
be
you're a
wrong.
shonen sheep.
You're wrong, and you should feel bad.
Hey, we can't use that. No, that's not ours. That's not ours.
But as always, check down below where you can find links to Anime Club After Dark on Twitter, on Discord. All of our links are down below. We also have a link to our merch store where you can buy lovely ACAD themed merch and really help us out. With that, though, I have been your host, Alex, and I will see you next time. Say goodnight, Vikings.
Yar! Wait, that's pirates.
That's
Fuck.
a pirate.
Fuck!
Ahoy!